This is Moshe coming to you from Israel, from the land of the Galilee on the 15th of August. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I don't know how hot it's going to be today. Let's look. Probably not great, but no good. 95 high, 82 already, and it's going to stay this. It's just going to get hotter over the weekend. Isn't that great? Yeah, it's just really wears you down. August is the hottest month of the year in Israel, and it's really hard. It really is. I can't tell you. It's just, it wears you out. The weather here is horrible, you know. Nobody moves to Israel because it's got great weather. You know? Okay, I'm going to do some war intel, talk about the ceasefire, what could possibly happen when the ceasefire blows up, which I'm quite sure will. What Iran is up to, what I think we need to start looking for in Europe. And then we're going to do a deep dive into the daughter of Babylon, which is America, in Jer.50, 51. And we're going to go through the scriptures. I've got some new insights, and I think we can get some more details this way, and possibly some better sense of sequencing. And, you know, that's what the Lord wanted me to do today. I don't have any more insights on the demons coming, or the devils coming out of the mouth of Satan and beast and the false prophet. I didn't get anything further, so we'll have to wait and see if there's not anything to get. You know, I don't know. We'll find out. Okay. There's no point dwelling on it because I didn't get any new insights. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to do some praise, since we're Bible-believing site, all that New Testament. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Couple of prayer requests. For CM Charlie Mike, CM Charlie Mike, CM. Pray for a good job for CM. Okay, let me delete that as we go so I don't make mistakes. And on this one, I got one initial R. Pray for R for healing of the body and the mind. For R, pray for the healing of the body and the mind. Okay? And that is what I got. Okay. Let me go into the chat, or the live stream, whatever we want to call it, and start with making sure we got sound and picture. Can't be too careful. Okay. We got sound and picture. We're talking about Bible prophecy and the events happening in Israel. All right, I'm going to be putting up a couple of really fast posts in the chat. And this isn't going to take much time. Almost done, guys. Okay, I'm done. I'm just going to pin it up and we'll get started. Right. Done. All right. The big event that's going on now is they're already in Qatar, negotiators from Israel and I believe Hamas. Iran has been ignoring any requests to participate in negotiations for ceasefire pertaining to Hamas in Gaza. Hezbollah has not been negotiating with any, they talk to Hezbollah, they talk to Hamas, they talk to Iran. They're not talking to America or Israel or anything like that. They have no interest in negotiations, so they say, and by their actions as well. Okay? All right, and that's not a great sign. There's rumors that are probably true that the Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis have been arguing and yelling and screaming with Iran about what to do regarding the attack on Israel. They apparently had some sort of meeting, and they want to push an attack on Israel, and Iran doesn't want to. Iran is using the lame excuse of, let's see if we could have a ceasefire with Hamas, and then we'll not do or postpone our revenge attack on Israel. Well, that's Iran playing games. They're afraid to do the attack on Israel, is what it is. Quick synopsis is this. Iran sent for days convoys of cargo planes into Iran. We know that they brought in electronic jamming equipment. We also know from the Ukraine fighting against Russia, this stuff's not any good. Oh, it has to do some good, but it's not that great. And S-400 radars, which we know emphatically don't work against stealth jets. Okay. It is also thought, but I never heard it announced officially, but it's likely true that Iran brought them long-range missiles. Now, yesterday, Iran brought their largest cargo plane, I don't know the designation numbers, a big sucker, over to Tehran. And what people were saying, and I really doubt this to be the truth, but I don't know, that there was some fighter jets on there. Now, the fighter jets might have had their wings detached or folded back, and how many fighter jets could you put on a cargo plane, even if it's a big sucker? 4, 5, I mean, you're not going to put 25, so I don't know how true this is. I really don't. Then the question becomes, what did, and aside from that, the Iranian pilots would need training on these jets, which Russian jets are, like I know with the MiGs, they're very, very complicated, and the training takes a long time. Now, very, very complicated is not the same thing as very effective. Remember that. They're not that effective. Russia and China, as far as I know, don't have any really good stealth jets at all, okay? So it's not, a handful of jets, if this is in reality true, are not going to do much to affect things with Israel at all. The other thing is, they might have brought missiles or something else. We don't know. And it is thought, and this could likely be the truth, that this super large cargo plane was filled up with short-range missiles that Putin wants to get from Iran. Now, how many short-range missiles could you put on a big cargo plane? Oh, you might be able to get 1 or 200 on there or something like that. I don't know. 300. You might be able to get quite a bit. Short-range missiles are not very big, the motor is smaller, the fuel supply is smaller. Typically, not always, but typically the warhead's not that big, but it can be big. All right, let's continue. So, what happened to Russia when they ran those several-day convoy of cargo planes into Iran, giving them at least defensive capability, if not offensive as well, is Ukraine invaded. Right after that, Ukraine invaded Russia and occupied, I understand, about 1,000 square kilometers, not miles, kilometers. 1 kilometer is about 0.6 of a mile, 0.6 of a mile, 3/5 of a mile, a little more than half. Okay. Right after that, now I believe it was yesterday or the evening before, they brought another cargo plane over. So what the heck happened? What will happen in Russia now? See, it was no coincidence. The other thing that this event of Ukraine capturing a large piece of land in Ukraine, which they have been steadily expanding. It's not that they got a slab of land and kept it. They've been increasing the slab of land that they have. There's a difference. Now, if Iran just sent an empty cargo plane over there and took back short-range missiles, not a lot is going to happen. But if they, brought weapons to Iran on the jet on the way over there, which is a likely occurrence, why send the empty jet there? And Iran is probably negotiating for more and more weapons. So then, or defensive weapons, whatever. Then a defensive weapon is the same thing, I believe, the way God would look at it, because it would help Iran attack Israel and not get attacked ourselves. So it's a similar, So what'll happen to Russia next? We'll see. Things are not going for Vladimir Putin very well at all. And the way the Russian military could likely deal with a problem with Putin, which is a big bad problem because Russia's invaded, is a bullet to the head or arsenic in his caviar or something. They give him a shot of something that makes him look like he had a heart attack or I don't know what. Okay? Putin rules with an iron hand and he keeps his defense network pretty good, but we don't know. Okay? But I'm expecting if he gave more weapons to Iran, something bad would happen to Putin. If he just sent an empty jet over there and took weapons back, I'm not so sure God would rain on him over that. Now, America and NATO is going to be extremely furious with Iran if they gave Putin the short-range missiles he wants, and I expect they did, okay? Because Putin was gracious enough to give them minimally radar and electronic jamming equipment. So I would say the chances of that plane taking back short-range missiles is probably very high. I would go 90% at least on something like that. And Iran would probably be trying to make it look good, make it look like Russia was bringing weapons to them, and then the plane goes back empty, but it didn't really go back empty. And they could move the Russian plane into a closed hangar where they previously stored cases of missiles and put them on the plane, and then the plane stays around for a few hours. The pilots get something to eat, drink coffee, go to the bathroom, wash their face, have a cigarette, or whatever they do, and then go back. Okay? So, and the plane gets refueled, and they check it. They can go through the motions, right? So this is something that likely occurred. Now, yesterday or last night, there was major power blackout, electrical outages, you might say, you could say, in Iran. Now, we could analyze and dissect this for a long time, but we don't know. It could have been a sabotage by revolutionary forces that hate the Khomeini government, and they might have jobs in these power plants, and they did something to sabotage the power plant. The power plant could have been blown up by uh, revolutionaries or other forces in Iran. I don't think it was hit by missiles because we did not hear of emergency sirens and ambulances and activation of anti-aircraft systems, so I don't think that happened. Could it have been done by hacking? Sure. I don't think so. This was a little bit too good for hacking, but yes, it's on the table as a possibility. Would Israel have done this? I'm not going to lean very heavily in that direction because it would not accomplish any permanent problem. It wouldn't make anything seriously go away with Iran. It would infuriate Iran and it would get Biden mad because it didn't do much. And it's all, if it's hacking, it's going to be temporary. If it was sabotage, explosives or something like that, it'll still be temporary, but it might take a week or two or something. I don't even think it would take that long. So is this something that Israel likely did to? I don't think so. What would it do? People would argue, well, it shows Iran that if they attack Israel, we could take their power grid down. Yeah, but the military installations almost for certain are going to have backup generators that are going to switch on in two or 3 seconds and keep the power going. So I don't think it had a lot of tactical or strategic value. I think it was some hacking group, probably tied to the revolutionaries in Iran that want to get rid of Khomeini, and they probably did it. I mean, Israel could have done it and made it look like it was some hackers, but yeah, so it happened. I'm sure the power will eventually get restored. Okay. Iran, of course, will say it was a failure of the electric grid, and we always have to leave room for that as a possibility also. You don't know. Israel didn't take credit for it, so we really don't know what happened, okay? It happened, but that's that, all right? Russia has not driven the Ukrainian forces out of the Kursk region of Russia, where they've occupied a large swath of land, and they've taken numerous villages over and stuff like that. So if the Russian people didn't evacuate out of there, they're living under Ukraine rule right now, which is not something that the Russian people at large are going to be happy about. So discontent with Putin is, I would say, absolutely at its finest. Okay? I mean, they have to be afraid they're going to lose the war, and NATO's plan is to split them up into, 3, 4, 5 countries so they can't regroup very easily. Put puppet governments in, set up a Federal Reserve Bank, break relations with Iran and China, all of this stuff, the whole thing. China's doing nothing right now about Iran and Israel in general. As I told you, their president suffered a stroke a while ago. That was pretty serious, and he hasn't been seen in public in weeks. And I don't think he's dead because they might conceal his death for a few days, but not week after week after week. That's too much. And it's very difficult to pull off, you know. But they're still harassing Taiwan with their psychological warfare, which is they surround Taiwan with warships and fly planes over their airspace and keep scaring Taiwan, like Hezbollah and Iran are trying to do with Israel. Okay? Very similar. Ukraine is not conducting psychological warfare against Russia, they're conquering Russia. So, I think we could safely plan on Russia being unable to do anything to bail Iran out with Israel. Oh, he could send some equipment there, he could send planes there, but, you know, cargo planes, he can't do much to help Iran. And China won't. China's not stupid enough to try to get into a war far away from home in the Middle East where they have no real prize to win. While they got so much trouble in their area. If they get embedded in the Middle East, then they have a problem with being attacked in homeland China and having their ships sunk and all kinds of stuff. So, you know, don't expect China to step in right now. China and Russia realize the enemy is America, and they got to get rid of America. Then they can do what they want. Okay? Now, can Israel hurt Iran? Yes. What could it look like, possibly? Well, Israel takes squads of, let's say, 12 F-35s, and with refueling tankers, which Israel has some of, by the way, fly them over to Iran. They're stealth, they get in, they bomb strategic targets, they come back. Right after they finish, another wing of 12 shows up and bombs other targets. They go home. They evaluate Iran's reaction, and if it starts taking the, you know, we're going to wipe Israel off the map, the next day the same thing happens. Iran keeps it up, the next day it happens again, and the next day. Or they could keep Iran on edge and come in every third day. Okay? Or whatever. We just keep doing it, like we do to Hezbollah. Now, Iran may, out of desperation, start doing massive missile launches, and Israel has about 50 F-35s, but you got to remember, all you need is about, you know, a half a dozen F-35s to bust up the radar in Israel, in Iran, and that opens pathways or corridors or aerial routes where there's no threat of missiles taking out planes. And then our F-16s come in with big payloads and start bombing lots of targets, maybe for 2 days. Then the F-35s come in again, take out another bunch of radars, opening up a path or a corridor in the air, and they come in and bomb more targets. They can bomb oil refineries, oil wells, military bases, airports, government buildings and facilities, bases, power grids, pipelines that Iran has for natural gas and oil, and other things. And the destruction to Iran and its economy could be devastating. All they got to do is destroy the pier or the piers that Iran uses predominantly to offload oil onto tanker ships and natural gas onto tanker ships. And then Iran's economy sank like a rock. I would expect there's at most 3 ports that are used, probably 1 or 2 that are the important ones. And I'm not talking about knocking them out for a week. I'm talking about lots of bombs and missiles causing lots of fires that'll take a week to put out. And it'll take them months to ever reestablish the functionality of these ports. Okay? So when you look at this stuff, this is the way you have to think, okay? Iran can say, gee, we can launch a lot of missiles and drones at Israel. And they've got a network of countries that are going to take them down, and they got a bunch of warships that are going to take them down. And they got a bunch of fighter jets from different countries that are going to take the drones out of the air. So then if the missiles and drones get to Israel, then the Iron Dome, the David Sling, the Arrow, and Israeli fighter jets are going to take them down again. It was like 99% of the missiles and drones last time never did anything in Israel. Damage was extremely insignificant. So while they're going to, relish, we're going to wear down Israel's Iron Dome defenses, Netanyahu told them they're going to respond with a disproportionate counterattack. And Iran would probably lose their piers, their ports, their radars, their nuclear facilities would be damaged, airports would go, bases would get hit. Probably infrastructure, like electric, maybe, I don't know what else. It would be pretty bad for Iran. And that's going to happen because it's in Jeremiah 49, the last several verses. It talks about Elam being destroyed so bad, all the occupants flee to all the other countries in the world. And Elam would be comprised of Iran, Iraq, and Syria. That rings a bell. It says her enemies in the plural will destroy her. Elam. So it doesn't sound like it's just Israel. It could be Israel added in the mix. If there was going to be an attack on Iran and America told Israel they could not participate, Netanyahu would get very angry. Taking casualties in such an attack is probably not going to happen. So yeah, Iran may be able to swarm attack our defenses and get some damage done in Israel. But in the meantime, what they could look forward to is bombings of targets in Iran, not just one bombing run, every day for a week or two until they're really so crippled they don't know what to do. And then the revolutionary forces may try to overthrow the government, but I don't see that in the scriptures. Lots of bombing, and it'll wreck the place. Now, giving missiles to Russia when they were told not to, there would be a price for that. You see, NATO wants to finish Russia off. Iran's trying to stop that. If Russia needs the missiles from Iran, he's running out. NATO wants that. They don't want to see North Korea, China, Iran, or whatever give missiles to Russia. Iran previously gave him a massive amount of drones. So I would say inescapably NATO is very angry at Iran. And I'm sure that Iran probably filled the cargo plane with missiles. I can't give you a written guarantee, but very likely. Iran cannot be spoken to. Iran doesn't respond to NATO, anybody, UN, US. I mean, there you go. They were warned not to do a big attack on Israel. 2 German bases suffered poisoning in the water supply right after Germany came out and said we have an everlasting commitment to help Israel, and we'll do so against Iran even if it involves deploying our military. Then their 2 bases got destroyed. So there are sleeper agents in the European countries too. Are there, massive amounts? Yeah. Tens of thousands. Anyway. I don't see that clearly in Scripture, so I don't know what the ramifications of that is going to be. All I think they managed to do by doing this to Germany was get Germany madder at Iran. See, the heads of state of these NATO countries, they know what Iran's capability is, and they know that Iran could do precious little of anything to them. Iran's power is with its proxies. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, which is basically not functional. The Houthis in Yemen, which is irritating America, Europe, NATO, and the world with the ship interdiction. The Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq and Syria are themselves puppet states of Iran and Iran. Okay. So, the Houthis, Hezbollah are not real countries, they're terrorist armies within a country. Hochstein was in Lebanon, I think, yesterday. Didn't talk to Hezbollah. They won't talk to him. He spoke to the Lebanese government, and that's a joke. You can't talk to them. They just hope. They're hoping everything goes away. They're fearful of Hezbollah. They're fearful of Israel, yet they do nothing. So that's that for them. It will end badly for the Lebanese people. What next in Israel? Well, the peace talks, which is supposed to go 2 days, today and tomorrow. I don't believe we're going to see anything real come out of this. But, Hamas is going to say, we want all of Israel military out of Israel, not for 6 weeks, forever. After that, we'll negotiate a hostage exchange for terrorist prisoners in Israel. And they want to remain in charge and control Gaza after that. That's the crux of the deal. Israel, if they agree to it, Netanyahu says, okay, I'll do it. Within hours, there'll be a vote of no confidence. And he'll be out of office before anything could be implemented. Bennett, Naphtali Bennett, who was briefly a prime minister in very recent years, is now starting to get very vocal in the press, criticizing Netanyahu in some horrible ways. So Naphtali Bennett is throwing his hat in the ring, seeing a vote of no confidence on the horizon and starting to campaign. So what does he know that we don't know? I don't know. He may just be guessing, or he may get the idea that Netanyahu is going to be given an offer he can't refuse, to, like the Godfather, you know, from Biden. The offer would be, look, Netanyahu, Iran says they'll back off if you make a deal with Gaza. The Houthis will back off, Hezbollah will back off. The Iran-backed militias in Syria and Iraq will back off, and you don't want to do it. You want us to go in and kill our soldiers and spend billions of dollars. If you don't take the ceasefire, America's out. You're on your own. Best of luck to you. See you around the campus, you know, and that's that. The impact on the election may not be that bad if he does that, but it's going to hurt. Trump would make sure the damage done to Kamala in the presidential race was massive if that ever happened. But that doesn't help Israel, and people forget. Can Biden get worse than that? Yeah. How? He says, I'm going to send, 10,000 American troops into Gaza and force a ceasefire. If you attack my troops when they're in Gaza, I'll attack you. And if Hamas attacks you, my troops will attack Hamas. It's over. Gaza's done. Hamas stays in control. You get out, and that's the end of the story. And then the war stops. Leave us alone. Is Biden likely to do that? No. Could it happen? Yeah, but I'm not. It could. I mean, I don't think Biden's ready to go that far right away. Biden could break up the coalition of nations that want to take down the missiles and drones coming towards Israel and just move the warships away. Or he'll keep them around to make sure Iran doesn't invade the oil-producing countries in the Middle East like Kuwait and UAE and Saudi Arabia and so forth. If that happens, Iran would take a poke at Israel. And one thing you got to understand is how many wars has Israel lost since 1948 against overwhelming odds? None. And this may be no different. Now, Biden is going to push on Hamas on some areas. They're going to say, no, don't tell us you're going to release the hostages after Israel pulls out. We don't know if you're going to do that. You may kill the hostages and say you can't find them, blah, 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 blah. You won't even tell us how many hostages you have. or what their names are. There are American citizens, dual citizens, that are in those hostages. So Biden is not going to let Hamas get away with it that way. That's not happening. Hamas is going to have to cough up the hostages, probably all of them. Biden is not going to tell Israel to release 5,000 terrorist prisoners to Hamas, which means they're just going to go to Gaza and join Hamas to kill Israel. So those two things, Biden administration, they're not going to go for. Will Hamas give up on that? Which isn't much. They just say, okay, they're going to spit forth the hostages. That's the end of the hostages. Okay? And they're not getting the terrorists out of prison. But Israel leaves Gaza and they remain in power. And there's going to be a strong implication, or threat made to them that if they resume the war against Israel, the attacks on Gaza are going to resume, but this time there'll be no chance of a ceasefire whatsoever. It's going to be your annihilation. Now, they won't believe Biden, but that's what they'll be told. If they reduce it to a 6-week ceasefire and they come up with the hostages and they don't expect terrorists to be done in exchange, I believe Israel will agree to it, and it will probably not result in a vote of no confidence. And can Biden push them that far? I doubt it. Why? Well, will the Houthis stop attacking ships for the 6-week period? I don't know. Probably not. Will Hezbollah stop for that 6-week period? Probably. But it gives Israel a chance to regroup, okay, as well as them. But, Israel's not going to do it. They're not going to let Hamas get weapons in from Egypt again, the Rafah area. Israel's not going to just say, okay, we'll leave Gaza completely. There'll be 4,000 or 5,000 missiles brought in. They're not going to do that. So the chances of this really going anywhere where both parties agree to it is highly likely to happen, highly unlikely. The only thing that might happen is a forced ceasefire by Biden. And we'll look at Jeremiah 50:51 in a little bit and see about that. I'm told that we got the 1,500, 2,000-pound bombs within the last few days from America. And that was probably evidenced by them using these 2,000-pound bombs hitting tunnels in Lebanon. So I think Israel needed a bigger inventory of these bombs to take out the tunnels in Lebanon, which might be part of the preemptive strike before they invade Lebanon. So we may start seeing a lot of these bombs used to destroy tunnels near the Israel border. I don't think Hezbollah's tunnel network is as elaborate as what we saw in Gaza. I don't think it's anywhere near that elaborate. Israel's definitely afraid of, a bonsai attack in tunnels where, martyrs from Hezbollah, they want to die, uh, come in the tunnels and try to kill Israeli civilians. But you got to remember, the civilians up at the border are evacuated. I don't think 100% of them are gone. I would say between 90 and 95% of them are gone. And you better believe those are the ones that are still there are packing weapons. Even if you have a pistol, a bunch of these jerks come into your house and you're, crouching down by the window, or maybe you crack the door open, which I doubt you would want to do, and you start plinking at these idiots with your pistol, you cause them to take cover, you thwart their attack, and yeah, they can turn around and start shooting you with RPGs, spraying your house with bullets, and eventually cause a fire in your house. I agree they can. But it makes life a little difficult. And what if the guy goes out of the house and hides somewhere and then shoots him in the back of the head or in the back, But these people got more. They have pistols and they have assault weapons, I'm sure. So they're, they're going to really be able to cause some damage to them, because you're not going to see, 5,000 come in. They'll be in small groups. If you look on YouTube, you could see pictures of people taking regular pistols like a 6 or a Glock and hitting targets out at 200 yards. It can be done with a regular, go to the store and buy a gun, not some special customized gun. The difference between buying a Glock or a good 6 or a good Heckler and Koch for, $600, $800, $900 and going out and buying a, $6,000 or $8,000 custom, what they call them, race guns, competitive gun. In terms of actual combat, is non-existent. You absolutely don't need a race gun for self-defense. It's moronic. You don't need it, but people buy them. They don't really enhance things that much. You don't need it. I know the 6 hours went bad at some point in time. They may have come back, but the old good ones, I had one. The trigger was smooth as butter. It was amazing. It was, cold Hammerford's barrel. It was extremely accurate. You couldn't outshoot the gun. The gun had more capability than you. The Glocks are the same way. The problem with the Glocks is they're polymer. They could break. The early Glocks didn't break, but I think after around 2008 or 2010, there's too many pictures of the polymer breaking in the Glock. I would stay away from that. The old Beretta 92 FS that the military used for 30, 40 years, it's a fantastic gun. If you get the right one, I believe you gotta buy the ones made in Italy, not America, but they're fantastic. And they're unbelievably accurate, and the Heckler and Koches. So there's so many guns you could buy. You just don't need these things. These are, there are people that buy these race guns and carry them. There was a company, I think they call themselves STI. Years ago, they were selling their guns for $3,000. They're probably $5,000, $6,000 now. And are they good guns? They're fantastic guns. But they're not meant for war or self-defense. They're meant for going to competitions. Now, would you be able to shoot an invading terrorist at a greater distance with one of these $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 guns than you would with a regular Heckler and Koch or 6 or Beretta? Not really. No, You really probably wouldn't. I don't think it would do you any good. I think if you go out more than 100 yards, you're going to even have trouble seeing the guy and getting your sights on him. Let's assume the guy's not just standing there, he's moving and he's trying to find cover and stuff. So I think 100 yards is probably max for practical application of using a pistol. Now, if you're trying to hit a stationary target, a sentry standing around talking to another sentry, and you're at 200 or even 250 yards, and you have a place where you could rest your hand, and you understand the drop with the guns, so you might want to shoot for the top of his head and try to get him in the sternum. Yeah, that would work. I'm going to take a break for a minute. But if the people in Gaza weren't suffering from Netanyahu, that horrible person's gun control laws, it never would have happened the way it did. Keeping the Israelis disarmed, like Netanyahu tries to do, is as stupid as sending the police with a radar gun to the drag strip on Saturday night and giving them speeding tickets. But Netanyahu was sort of a curse on Israel, and the people brought him in. Could Iran attack Israel during the ceasefire, and that's their plan? Sure. Does Israel, not know that? Of course they know that. Israel every day is attacking Hezbollah, knocking them down to size, little by little by little by little. If they went in there and they ran, 60 jet missions in a day, it would cause more of a reaction. So they're kind of, gradually taking Hezbollah apart and stopping the flow of weapons coming in. So Hezbollah is on the endangered species list. Hamas is waiting to get a rescue. Israel throws the towel in, and then Hamas emerges as victors. The place is demolished. What are they going to be a victor of? Meanwhile, Netanyahu keeps knocking the buildings down more and more and more, which is a reasonably decent plan. But, he's not fighting the war with the vigor he should have back in October. It would have been over by January anyway. He didn't do it. If you listen to the nations, it don't work. Okay? Nations don't want Israel to have any victories and conquer any land or anything like that. All right. Let me see if anybody's sending in prayer requests or anything like that. No. All right. Let's go. Let me check the chat and see if I'm getting questions. I will try to answer questions if they're somewhat relevant to what's going on. The revolvers are not so foolproof as you might think. Um, they're not. Um, Mexico, okay. No, my background is for a while I was in law enforcement, not ever went in anybody's military. The Lord kept me away from that, thank God. There's going to be no ceasefire. We don't know. I don't think so. I'm with you, but these are end days, end times, and you never know what's going to happen. It won't last, but. Um, yeah, Netanyahu is trying to come out on top, that's for sure. The problem you get with revolvers is they have a thing called they go out of time, where the cylinder turns, but it doesn't line up correctly with the barrel. It's slightly off. And then when you fire, pieces of the bullet get shaved off. Little tiny slices of it come off, and that will cause inaccuracy. It can cause problems with it. They're rather reliable. I used to have an 8-shot Smith and Wesson 357, and I thought that was great. But when I was, living in America and other countries, I would not feel good with a 5 or 6-shot revolver. I'd rather have at least 10 rounds in a clip. Um, 15 or 17 made me feel better. They say the 9mm is as good as the other calibers. It's not. The 40 was, if you got the hot loads, was a good round, but for some reason the 40 caliber just doesn't have the accuracy. Although people disagree with me on that, I never was able to get accuracy out of it. Where I could get the accuracy out of a 9mm or a 45. 357 is hard to get a lot of precision accuracy because the thing kicks around a lot. The 10mm is a really good gun, but overall in a handgun, there's nothing wrong with the 45. There really isn't. The 10mm can be better. I had a 10mm, I think it was a Colt Delta. It was a 1911 type gun with a 10mm, and it was a pretty darn good gun. I was living in some garbage hole country at the time, and I almost had to take some people out. There was a car coming and stopped and spoke to me, my wife, and there was another person with us, and started asking directions for some place that made absolutely no sense. And I picked up on it, and I told them, watch yourself, but they were still trying to be nice to the guy. So I walked down behind where the guy's car was, blocking myself with taking cover by a parked car, and I was in the driver's blind spot. And I had my Colt Delta, and I kept my hand on it, and I could just go like that. And the guy realized that I was going to blow the back of his head off, and he just took off. It was just a trouble spot. We lived near there, and there was a restaurant we used to frequent, and somebody that was living with us went to that restaurant and had an expensive cell phone, went across the street to a bakery, bought some pastries, and then I think she put the phone in the bag of the pastries, and she was walking back home right by the restaurant, and some guys came at her to take the phone, and she wouldn't give them the phone, and this restaurant kept cops in there for protection, so there was a lot of crime around there. And the two cops saw it, and they ran out, and they just beat the daylights out of this guy right in the street in daytime in front of everybody. It was an insult to them. You're robbing people right in front of the restaurant we're stationed in. It was right in front, and they were insulted that the guy did that. This makes them look bad. It makes them look like they're on the take, like he's robbing people and giving them, 20% or something. It was, yeah, living in these rat hole countries could be not worth it. But okay, let's go to Jeremiah 50:51, and let's see how we can apply the things in there to Israel today, which I haven't done this in a long time, and I think we'll get new insights. Okay? This is America, the daughter of Babylon. I'll touch on it as we go to make sure you understand that if you know. The word that Jehovah spake against Babel. Now, the English uses the word Babylon. That's idiotic. It doesn't say Babylon. It never does. It says Babel, and the word means confusion. Okay? Now, there was an old Babel, or they like to call it Babylon in English, in Iraq. And it is not a waste place. The city is not a big, thriving, wonder of the world, but it's got stuff there. It even has a museum. It has streets and buildings and structures. It's not wiped out. People live there. Not a lot, but it's there, okay? There's a museum there. All right. Spake against Babel and against the land of the Chaldeans. And Chaldeans were soothsayers, witches, if you will, working with unclean spirits. Maybe like a gypsy fortune teller, or maybe using the star charts to predict the future, stuff like this. By the so-called gypsy fortune tellers have got unclean spirits. What do you think goes on? And people come in, they're in sin, they get witchcraft and sorcery. They buy into this stuff. They start giving money to talk to the dead or learn about the future. Yeah, it's standard bogus witchcraft stuff, junk, By Jeremiah the prophet, declare you among the nations, the heathen is the word, and publish and set up a standard, publish and conceal not, say Babylon is taken. Okay, now taken is an interesting word. Lakad in Hebrew, Strong's number 3920, captured, seized. Now you've got to understand the sleeper agents for this to make sense. Trump said there's 20 million illegals in America in the recent years with the open borders, and many people have documented and are saying 70% are military-age males. So if you use Trump's figures, you get 14 million sleeper agents. If you, let's just say, to be conservative, cut it in half, you got 7 million. That's a massive amount. That's almost the population of New York City. It's a massive amount. And publish and set up a standard, publish and conceal not, Babel is taken. Bel, that's one of the demon image idols of the old Babylon, is confounded. Merodach, the same thing, another demon idol, is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. For out of the north there cometh up a nation against her, which shall make her land desolate. Okay, it's not Canada that's attacking America, okay? I really can tell you it's not Canada, okay? They're not attacking America. They don't have the ability, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the desire. They're not attacking America. maybe that idiot leader would want something like this, but that's not happening. Okay, the north, he's referencing Israel. Who's north of Israel? Well, to some extent, Syria is north of Israel, Iraq to some extent, um, Lebanon to some extent, Turkey to some extent, and Russia is north and over, not really north, you know. We'll keep reading. Her images are broken. Okay, for out of the north there cometh up a nation, it would be Goyim, the heathen nation, against her, which shall make her land desolate, and none shall dwell therein. They shall remove, they shall depart, both man and beast. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come. So the second exit, the next great exodus, I should say, there's been more than two exoduses already. You know, you have Egypt, you have Babylon, you have 1917, Balfour Declaration, 1948, and many times after that. So it's better to say the next great exodus. In those days and in that time. So it's going to happen in those days of the destruction of America. Now, it may not happen on the same day, but, and in that time, it's definitely associated. Let's check the word for time. Yeah, it doesn't say hour, it would mean time. Word for days is days. Saith Jehovah, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Judah together. Well, there's 6.5 million known Judah in America alone, and plus you got to get into the lost tribes and those that are Jews and Israelites that don't know who they are. Together, they're going to come together. So this is the lost tribes are waking up. Going and weeping, they shall go and seek Jehovah Elohim. Now, why are they weeping? It would appear to me they saw the sign of the Son of Man, Yeshua coming in the clouds, and he, you know, puts, when they see him, they shall be like him, they shall have everlasting life. He puts it on all the Israelites, even the lost tribes, because we read in Jeremiah 31 that they shall all know him from the least to the greatest. They shall have a heart of flesh, he will put the law in their inward parts. So that's your explanation for that. Okay. Verse 5, they shall ask the way to Zion with their faces thitherward, saying, come and let us join ourselves to Jehovah in a perpetual covenant that shall not be broken. Well, they've been transformed. Okay? Now they're believers. And now they want to go to let us join ourselves to the Lord. Well, you're going to go to Israel for that. In a perpetual covenant that shall not be forgotten. Well, they're mourning. They mocked Yeshua. They rejected Yeshua. Now they realize how bad off they were by doing that, and they feel bad, and they're mourning. My people have been lost sheep. You see the same thing in Zechariah 12 when they see the coming of the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds, where Yeshua appears seated at the right hand of God the Father, like the lightning from the east to the west. He doesn't come down to the earth, he just appears. Coming down to the earth is later, much later, like 60-something years, well, about 70 years later, roughly. All right, so they too are mourning. So you could see that's the effect that this has on them. When the believers see him, that maybe aren't Israelites, are they too going to have this everlasting life? Absolutely. They're in Israel. If you're a believer in Yeshua, you're in Israel. And you'll have it. Are you going to be mourning? I would think you're probably not going to be mourning. because you know what's going on. You know, my people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds have caused them to go astray. Now, Netanyahu would be construed a shepherd, so would the rabbis, so would the government of Israel. They have turned them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill. They have forgotten their resting place. They don't want to come to Israel. All that found them have devoured them. And their adversaries said, we offend not, because they have sinned against Jehovah, the habitation of justice, even Jehovah, the hope of their fathers. So they feel they got a free pass to do whatever they want to Israelis. Remove out of the midst of Babylon, and go forth out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be as the he-goats before the flock. Now he's talking to those that have seen the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds. For lo, I will raise and cause to come against Babel an assembly of great nations, heathen nations, from the north country. And that's not Canada, it's the north of Israel. And yeah, I'm giving you some for instances of these countries. You know. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. So set themselves in array. So let me tell you what the English did. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words to replace one Hebrew word. So we better look at it. Iraq. Not Iraq, Iraq. It has a connotation of arranging or setting in place as in a war setting. So they position themselves, okay, against her from thence. She shall be taken, captured. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. Oh, that sounds like sleeper agents. Arrows could be missiles, mortars, bullets, you know. And Chaldea shall be a spoil. All that spoil her shall be satisfied. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to loot and pillage it. I used to think it does. The spoil means they're going to spoil it. They're going to ruin the place. Okay? She shall be satisfied, saith Jehovah. They hate America. Because you were glad, because you rejoiced, O you destroyers of my heritage. Well, that's America. Stopping Israel from getting the land and stuff like that. Take it easy with Hamas, give them humanitarian aid. You know, don't hurt the civilians. You know, all sick stuff, right? Because you are grown fat as the heifer, America, at grass, and bellow as bulls. Your mother shall be sore confounded. That's the great whore, who was apparently the same, you know, it's a takeoff on the old Babylon. It's an allegorical thing, you know, it's the same demons running America that ran the old Babylon, you know. Bel, Merodach, stuff like that, okay. She that bare you shall be ashamed. Behold, the hindermost of the nations, the most recent of the nations, which easily fits America, shall be a wilderness, a dry land, and a desert. You see, we're told the end of it in prophecy. We get the ending. And we get a little bit of the details, but not a lot to dot the I's and cross the T's. Because of the wrath of Jehovah it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babel shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babel, round about, all you that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against Jehovah. The arrows could be missiles. Shout against her round about. She has given her hand. That means she surrendered. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. The walls could mean the battlements, like the forts and the military bases. It could be a wall. The only real wall America has is between America and Mexico. Her foundations are fallen, her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of Jehovah. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. Well, she was pretty complicit in October 7th. Netanyahu, you could not go see Biden. Biden didn't want to see him. Then all of a sudden in September, around mid-September, he says, oh, Netanyahu could come here anytime. 23rd of September, Netanyahu goes to visit Biden. And then October 7th, it happens. Coincidence? Not in my book. Israel did nothing to stop it. All its defense mechanisms were down. Take vengeance upon her as she hath done, do unto her. And you'll see what happened to the Israelites in the south of Israel by Gaza on October 7th. You'll see in these passages, Jeremiah 50, 51, very much similar, and the same things are going to happen to them. I'll point them out. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and him that handleth the sickle in the time of the harvest, for fear of the oppressing sword. They shall turn every one to his people, and they shall flee every one to his own land. These are the agricultural workers, and it hasn't happened yet, but when they see the oppressing sword, they're going to run away and go back to their home countries. These are the agriculture workers, not the sleeper agent soldiers. Israel is a scattered sheep. Now, with so many sleeper agents in America, it has to be common knowledge to military intelligence, the CIA, and agencies like that in probably 100 other countries, that there's recruiting for this, yet they don't want to talk about it. Curious. They have to do recruiting to raise that many people. You can't keep it quiet. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last this Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. This Nebuchadrezzar would be, if things don't change, which they could, Biden. That's who that's talking about. And the old Nebuchadrezzar destroyed Israel. Broken his bones is a funny expression. It means to be mighty against them, the way the lion kills the prey and then chews the bones. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah of armies, Elohim Yisrael, God of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babel and his land, that's America, as I have punished the king of Assyria, and I will bring Israel again to his habitation, and he shall feed on Carmel and Bashan, and his soul shall be satisfied upon Mount Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time, saith Jehovah, the lawlessness of Israel shall be sought, and there shall be none, and the sins of Judah, and they shall not be found. For I will pardon them with whom I reserve. Go up against the land of Merathaim, even against it, and against the inhabitants of Pekod. Waste and utterly destroy after them, saith Jehovah, and do according to all that I have commanded thee. God is directing these people to destroy America, the daughter of Babylon. They're working under his orders. They probably don't know it. A sound of battle in the land and of great destruction. So there's battle in the land inside America. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babel become a desolation among the heathen? I have laid a snare for thee, and thou art also taken, O Babel, and thou wast not aware. Thou art found and also caught, because thou hast striven against Jehovah. America is in a snare, and the snare is from Jehovah, and they will never get out of the snare. Period. To say so would mean you don't think the Bible comes true. Jehovah hath opened his armory and hath brought forth the weapons of his indignation, his anger, his fury. For this is the work of Adonai, Jehovah of armies, in the land of the Chaldeans. He does it. There is no getting out of it. Come against her from the utmost border, open. Now that's come against her from the utmost border, which, what is that? It could be Alaska, but that's not exactly a border on the United States. It's sort of isolated. So I don't know what it is. Gulf of Mexico? No, I don't know. I mean, let's look at the word on this. I think the word is translated too strongly. Let's see. Let's see what Strong's puts it in English. It seems to mean end. So come against her from the utmost end, open her storehouses, cast her up as heaps, and destroy her utterly, let nothing of her be left. Her storehouses could be army bases, it could be food, I don't know. It could mean a lot of things, all of the above. Slay all her bullocks. Now, he's not telling them to come and slay the bulls. Or the steers or something like that. It's these are the bulls, which is, from old street talk in New York, detectives with bulls and stuff. It could mean not the military, but the so-called almost military, like the federal agents and the police and stuff like that. Let them go down to the slaughter. Woe unto them for their day. It could also mean the leaders, for their day, okay, is come. And what it's saying is Yom Bo, the day comes. The time of their visitation. So this is their visitation. Does this have to be the day of vengeance? I'm thinking it does not have to be. I think the day of vengeance over Zion could mean the nations that are surrounding Israel at the time in the siege of Zechariah 12. Now, America's sort of kind of a party to this, so maybe it does happen on that day. But it also doesn't, but it would happen within the time with the year of recompenses. Now, the year of recompenses, the Hebrew word, does not lend itself to meaning a 360-day year. It's more or less a loose period of time where you can't precisely pin it down, but because he uses not shanad, it's probably not going to be 2 years or 5 years. It's probably going to be, not that far away from a year, but we're not supposed to know the day or the hour. So the time of their visitation, the voice of them that flee and escape out of the land of Babel, to declare in Zion the vengeance of Jehovah Elohim, the vengeance of his temple. Now, this could be referencing the old temples. And, of course, I don't see anything like we get a new temple and immediately, or rather rapidly, something happens to it. I don't see that in the scriptures at all. So I think it's a reference to the old thing. The same spirits that were running Babylon that destroyed Solomon's temple and wiped out Israel and took the temple artifacts and all that is the same unclean spirits running America. And because they're declaring it in Zion, the vengeance of the Lord, they come to Israel. That's very consistent, with the great Exodus. Call together the archers against Babel, and you that bend the bow, come against it round about. No, that's a surrounding, like they're going to try in Zechariah 12. Let none thereof escape. To recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against Jehovah, against the Holy One of Israel. Remember, they promised Israel weapons and then they withheld them, right? Okay. Therefore shall her young men fall in the streets, and all men of war shall be cut off in that day, saith Jehovah. And it says all men of war. That's soldiers are going to get cut off, all of them. Maybe it would be better translated men of battle, but it's the same meaning. It's the soldiers. Behold, I am against thee, O thou most proud, saith Adonai Jehovah of armies, for thy day is coming. That's going to happen in a day. the time that I will visit thee. So it's perhaps more of a visitation than on the day of vengeance, but it is also vengeance. So maybe it's both. Maybe the daughter of Babylon's day of visitation is the same as the day of vengeance. And, I don't know. It's likely to be the case, but it would be in close proximity, but that's the best, safest position. It's either the same or in close proximity. And the most proud shall stumble and fall. Those are your Satan bots. And none shall raise him up, and I will kindle a fire in his cities. And that's really, it says what it says. And it shall devour all round about him. Now, the manifestation of that could be Jehovah causes the fires, or military causes the fires, or lightning and dry land. I don't know. How Jehovah kindles the fire is up to him. Thus saith Jehovah of armies, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captive held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Jehovah of armies is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause. That he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babel. Rest to the land means Israel gets rest. Okay? The land is high areas, and the inhabitants of Babylon, America, don't get rest. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Jehovah, and upon the inhabitants of Babel, and upon her princes, and upon her wise men. A sword is upon the liars. That's going to be a lot in America, especially in Washington, D.C., and the state capitals and stuff. And they shall dote. A sword is upon her mighty men, and they shall be dismayed. A sword is upon the horses, and upon their chariots, and upon the mingled people that are in the midst of her. Mingled people. That's America. The melting pot, right? And they shall become as women. They get so scared. They'll clutch their guts like a woman in travail. They shall become as women. A sword is upon her treasures, and they shall be robbed. So actually, they're going to get looted. Exactly what? Don't know. Museums, military bases. We'll see. A drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up, for it is the land of graven images, and they are mad upon her idols. That might happen after it's over, I don't know. Again, we don't get all the little fine details. We get a good overview. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owl shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Jehovah. So shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth. So it's a big conglomeration of nations that come hit her. They shall hold the bow and the lance. They are cruel and will not show mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea. And they shall ride upon horses, every one put in array, like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon. The word for horse is sus. It could mean a swallow, a bird. This is the way, they didn't know how to say tanks and armored personnel carrier and helicopters and jets. So the prophecy was coming forth with the terms of, then the horse was used as transport for soldiers when they were attacking. The king of Babel hath heard the report of them, and his hand, that would, unless things change, be Biden, and his hands waxen feeble, anguish took hold of him. Anguish took hold is what it says, I believe, and pangs as of a woman in travail. Behold, he shall come up like a lion from the swelling of Jordan unto the habitation of the strong, but I will make them suddenly run away from her. And see, this sounds like American troops around Jordan, the border crossing by the Jordan River, which is really near me. So it looks like American troops are there when this happens, unto the habitation of the strong, which would be the Israelites. But I will make them suddenly run away, probably the Americans. I will make them suddenly run away from her. And who is the chosen man that I may appoint over her? For who is like me, and who will appoint me the time? And who is that shepherd that will stand before me? Well, it could be meaning several people. Number one, Yeshua. Number two, Elijah and Apostle John are also sons of God, based on Zechariah 4:14. And what did Jehovah say? Let each produce after its own kind. So these were his sons in heaven, made in heaven. They weren't made from the dust of the earth or anything like that. Now they come down to earth as in a human format, but they're still his sons. Therefore hear you the counsel of Jehovah that he hath taken against Babel, and his purpose that he hath purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. That's the people you see in Zechariah 12, the old poor, and the old ones, the busted up ones, the feeble ones. Yeah, the poor. Did I say the poor? Did I say the poor? Did you get the idea that it's the poor? Okay, the poor. And the others that are, weak and stuff like that, but they're not going to be that way anymore. Of the flock shall draw them out, surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. At the noise of the taking of Babel, the earth is moved, and the cry is heard among the heathen. This will be quite a thing. Thus saith Jehovah, I'm in Jeremiah 51, behold, I will rise up against Babel and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me. Well, you don't rise up against Jehovah, but you happen to dwell there. Big difference. A destroying wind. So he's going to rise up a destroying wind against them, and will send unto Babel fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For in the day of trouble they shall be against her round about from all over the place. Against him that bendeth meaning the bow, let the archer bend his bow, and against him that lifteth himself up in his brigadine, his military gear, and spare you not her young men, destroy you utterly all her host. They're all going to get killed except the Israelites and the real believers. That's the reality of this. All the military gets it. The Satan bought leaders of the country direct the military to do the bidding of Satan, and they wind up doing it. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and they that are the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans. Okay, they're going to die right there. They that are thrust through in her streets. Thrust through could be a bullet hole, it could be a sword. For Israel hath not been forsaken, nor Judah of his God. Judah of his God. No, it's saying Judah, Elohim, Jehovah of armies, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Well, when the 2,000-year punishment is fulfilled and they see the appearing of the Son of Man in the clouds, that's it, their sins are gone. Contrary to the teachings of the church. Flee out of the midst of Babel and deliver every man his soul. Be not, now the word for soul is probably nephesh, it is. It's not your spirit, you're like your soul, not your body, not your spirit. Be not cut off in her iniquity, her lawlessness, for this is the time of Jehovah's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. So the vengeance is now being associated with the year of recompenses. The recompense it seems to be in the year of recompenses, and it may or may not be the same as the day of vengeance. It's also a visitation. I don't think we're ever going to be able to precisely guarantee that it's on a particular day. I don't see enough evidence for that. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunken. The heathen have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Well, they are crazy. Babel is suddenly fallen, it happens suddenly, and destroyed. Now it says, howl for her, take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. Well, they're trying to save it. This is probably when the destruction of Washington, D.C. in Revelation 18 would happen suddenly in a day and an hour, and they try to heal it. We would have healed Babel, but she is not healed. Forsake her and let us go, everyone into his own country, for her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. Jehovah hath brought forth our righteousness through the appearing of the Son and the Son of Man. And let us declare in Zion, in Israel, the work of Jehovah Elohim. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. Jehovah hath raised up the spirit of the king of the Medes. Now, the Medes would be north, the Median Empire would be north of Israel. For his device is against Babel to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. I think at some point you had Israel contained in there. The kings of the Medes, the Median Empire, I think at times included Israel. So you got to use discernment on this. Because it is the vengeance of Jehovah. I do not believe Israel is attacking America. I don't get that at all. It is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. Possibly the two witnesses are attacking America. I give it a slim outside possibility, but I'm really not seeing that. It could be, but it's not really indicated in the scriptures. So it could be. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babel. If they try to keep the Israelites inside America, then Jehovah's going to send somebody down there. It is the vengeance of Jehovah, the vengeance of his temple. Set up the standard upon the walls of Babel, make the watch strong. Set up the watchmen, prepare the ambush, for Jehovah hath both devised and done that which he spake against the inhabitants of Babel. There's no getting out of that. O thou that dwellest upon, sure, if they were going to repent, but we don't see any indications of that. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Gulf of Mexico, the Great Lakes, 8,000 rivers, and probably about that many lakes. Mecca and Medina in the desert of Saudi Arabia in the desert, dwelling on waters, are you possibly talking about? The Vatican. It only has 300 people living there, no Israelites of any kind, no Jews, and it's not on waters. So forget those. Many waters abundant in treasure, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Jehovah of hosts hath sworn by himself, saying, surely I will fill thee with men as with caterpillars. I get sleeper agents right here. And they fill thee means they're already in. And they shall lift up a shout against thee. He hath made the earth by his power. He hath established the worlds by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heaven by his understanding. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightning with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasure. Every man is brutish by his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, the Statue of Liberty, the other things they got. They are vanity, the work of errors. In the time of their visitation, they shall perish. There it is. The portion of Yaakov is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Jehovah of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. This is speaking of Israel. We will be going to war. We will be taking the land back, very similar to what happened with Joshua. But this will be after the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. We'll fight with sling stones, it says. Thou art my battle axe, and what a battle axe will be, and weapons of war. For with thee will I break in pieces the nations, the goyim, the heathen, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Well, they're all against us now, so. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider. With thee also will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers, and I will render unto Babel and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight. So does that mean that we're going to actually go wipe out the daughter of Babylon? You know, I have thought about that for many years. I don't quite see it because the enemies are described not like Israelites, but see, it says that we'll break in pieces the nations and the kingdoms. I don't think it says the enemy for America will come from the north. It doesn't lend itself at all to it being Israel doing it. This doesn't lend itself. Could it be the two witnesses? Maybe if they want to keep him there and not let him come to Israel, maybe that would cause it. But we don't have a clear, absolute picture that that is the case. I don't see it. Okay. And I will render unto Babylon to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight. In your sight would mean that they're still going to be doing bad things that I don't think have come to pass yet. It's my opinion. I could be wrong. That's how I'm reading it. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountains, saith Jehovah, which destroyeth all the earth. It's more like defiled all the earth, or corrupted all the earth by getting him to serve the unclean spirit and stuff like that. All the earth, and I will stretch out my hand upon thee and roll thee down from the rocks, and I will make thee a burnt mountain. And they shall not take of thee a stone for a corner, nor a stone for foundation, but thou shalt be desolate forever, saith Jehovah. Set you up a standard in the land. Blow the trumpet among the nations. Prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdom of Arat, Mini, and Ashkenaz. Those are the stand countries that are allied with Russia. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up against the rough caterpillars. The rough caterpillars could be the sleeper agents or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's a different analogy here. It doesn't lend itself. But prepare against her the nations with the kingdoms of the Medes. That's the Median Empire. The captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and shall sorrow, for every purpose of Jehovah shall be performed against Babel, to make the land of Babel a desolation without an inhabitant. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They're afraid to fight, or they're not fighting. They have remained in their holds, their bug out locations, their houses, whatever. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned her. That's the daughter of Babylon gets burned. They become as women. They don't have a will to fight. It's taken away from them. These are your militias, your survivalists, your gun people, your patriots, and so forth. They have burnt her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. One post shall run to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to show the kingdom of Babylon, the king of Babylon, that his city is taken. That's Washington, D.C., and it looks like the grid is down. It is taken one end, at one end. So the city is captured. And then that's probably when it's burning. In Revelation 18, they shall burn her and eat her flesh. And that the passages are stopped, and the reeds they have burned with fire. I guess this is probably referencing the Potomac River or something. And the men of war are affrighted. So they're still around, but they're scared. For thus saith Jehovah of armies, the Elohim Yisrael, the daughter of Babel is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her, yet a little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. Well, okay, a threshing floor is where you separate the wheat from the chaff, and the chaff is burned up. The fires that surround, kindle fires in and around our cities, okay? The wheat at the harvest is gathered into the barn being Israel. The wheat are the Israelites, lost tribes, not lost tribes, and the true believers in Yeshua. Time to thresh her, that's the threshing. A little while, and the time of her harvest shall come. A little while is kind of a funny translation. It's miyat. Little. It means little. It doesn't mean little while. It means little. And it's saying yet. The word for that is ode. It's again. Yet means like again, more than yet. So it's saying again little, and time harvest come. Boom. Well, they got the general idea, a short period of time, little period of time, a harvest come. Okay. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, hath devoured me. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled his belly with my delicacies. He hath cast me out. I believe this is referencing the old Nebuchadnezzar from Babylon. The violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babel, shall the inhabitants of Zion say, and my God and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. So something bad happens with America and Israel. Wouldn't you agree? Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, behold, I will plead thy cause, and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea, and make her springs dry. This could be after she's got all the people killed, I don't know. And Babel shall become heaps, a dwelling place for dragons, an astonishment and a hissing without an inhabitant. He keeps talking about the dragons, I think, because the leaders of America are with the dragon, Satan, that old serpent, right? and that's why they're getting the dragons there. I think that's part of God's plan, like a mockery or something. They shall roar together like lions, they shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heat I will make their feast. Now, in their heat means to me, in their lust. Let's check the word ham. No, ham means hot. Like, if I went outside today, I would say in Hebrew, ham hayom, which means it's hot today. So it means hot. I will make their feasts, but the fact that he's throwing feasts into this, which is mishtar, a banquet, a party, feast. In there, I think he means lust, perverted lust, probably, or immoral lust, or whatever. Their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep. I think drunken from the cup of the Lord, and sleep a perpetual sleep, and not wake, saith Jehovah. The best I could do with this is a lot of them are going to get killed in their sleep. I don't know how else to interpret this. Maybe this happens on some debaucherous holiday that they have, or maybe they're celebrating something bad that happened to Israel in America, or I don't know. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. Now, how could America destroy Iran? Well, America could destroy Iran, which Iran gets wiped out, but China, Russia, North Korea, and the rest of them launched the sleeper agents to say we better get rid of America. She's getting dangerous. She's starting to fight now. She's not scared all the time. It's just as a possibility. How is Sheshach taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? So she gets surprised, America does. How is Babel become an astonishment among the heathen? The sea is come up upon Babel, and is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Well, he kindles fires in and around the cities, and I suppose the waves wash all over America to put the fire out, so the animals could live there. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land, and a wilderness. Well, that's how Israel was in the past, wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. And I will punish Bel, that's one of the old Babylon demon idols. I will punish Bel in Babel, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up. And the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Where does that happen? In the UN building in New York City. I think it's 54th Street on the East River. The wall of Babel shall fall. That could be the defenses of Babylon fall. It doesn't necessarily have to only mean the Mexico-America wall. You understand? It could be more of an allegory. My people, go you out of the midst of her, and deliver every man his soul from the fierce anger of Jehovah. See, you'll be getting out. And lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall, and lest your heart faint. So he's telling you, don't get nervous, that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. We really haven't seen ruler against ruler with violence, but we have seen violence in the land to some extent. I don't think we're at the fullness of this yet. Therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babel, and the whole land shall be confounded, and all her slaying shall fall in the midst of her. Well, we certainly really haven't seen that to its fullness, of course. Then the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babel, for the spoilers shall come unto her from the north, saith Jehovah. So it's the north of Israel, it's not Israel doing this. As Babel hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. Well, October 7th could justify this and other things, like the 1948 arms embargo on Israel and Nixon withholding the weapons for 5 days in the 1973 war, like forcing us to give Gaza back, and look what happened, and making us leave the buffer zone in Lebanon in 2006, which was 25 miles wide, and I could keep going. So at Babel shall fall the slain of all the earth. Ye that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember Jehovah afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. You'll be there, I believe this is telling us, with the attack, or at least the ruler against ruler. At least that part you'll be there for, I think, or otherwise, what's the relevance of escape the sword? Now, I'm going to say something to you, and I don't want you to get off the wrong way on this. The Israelites, us here in Israel, are putting up with almost 10 months of attacks with missiles and stuff like that. Okay, that's for Israel. So you're also Israel, so you're going to kind of have this too. I don't know a better way of telling it to you. Maybe it's a test. Maybe it's to strengthen and build you up. Maybe it's both. But it looks like you'll have it also. But he'll get you through it in one piece. It won't come near your dwelling. That's the scripture. You'll be fine. Unless your dwelling, of course, is in America and the whole place is going to be destroyed, then that has to happen, of course. But you'll be fine. We are confounded because we have heard his reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuaries of Jehovah's house. But I believe this is in the past. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith Jehovah, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babel should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith Jehovah. Jehovah sends them. It's doom and gloom, kids, on America. Not necessarily you, if you're a believer or a member of Israel by birth. A sound of a cry cometh from Babel, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans, because Jehovah hath spoiled Babel, spoilers spoil it, and destroyed out of her the great voice. Well, that's America. The Vatican doesn't have a great voice. Saudi Arabia doesn't have a great voice. It's America. When he, from America listens to the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Muslims, the atheists, the communists listen to America. They don't listen to the Pope or Saudi Arabia. When her waves do roar like great waters, a noise of their voice is uttered. Because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babel, and her mighty men are taken, every one of their bows is broken. For Jehovah Elohim, Jehovah El of recompenses, now it's referencing recompenses, shall surely requite. Payback. And I will make drunk her princes and her wise men, probably from the cup of the Lord, which is not alcohol, her captains and her rulers and her mighty men, and they shall sleep a perpetual sleep, or they drink of the cup of the Lord, and they'll go to sleep, and they're lost and never wake up, and not wake, saith the King, whose name is Jehovah-50. That's the second time we read it. So they'll be taken by surprise suddenly, and maybe they're celebrating something, but they're lusting all the time. You know, celebration is more associated with feasting, not lusting. So they're lusting immorally and anti-scripturally all the time. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, the broad walls of Babel shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire, and the people shall labor in vain, and the folk in the fire, and they shall be weary. Yeah, they're getting there. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Sariah the son of Neriah, the son of Messiah, Messiah, when he went with Zedekiah, the king of Judah, into Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. And this Sariah was a quiet prince, so Jeremiah wrote in a book all the evil that should come upon Babel, even all these words that are written against Babel. See, he may not have known that this was going to be applied to America. He was applying it to Babylon at the time. So while they were giving forth the prophecy, there's times when they probably didn't understand the prophecy either. I'm guessing on that, but I think so. And Jeremiah said to Sariah, when thou comest to Babel and shalt see and shalt read all these words, then shalt thou say, O Jehovah, thou spoken against this place, to cut it off, that none shall remain in it, neither man nor beast, but that it shall be desolate forever. See, that never really happened to the old Babylon and Iraq. And it shall be when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind the stone and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babel sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Well, see, Satan makes us weary, and that's the God of America, so he makes them weary. These two chapters really take it out of me because they're so big, and there's so much in there. Let me see if we got anything cooking up in the chat here that needs addressing. Can Judaism free Diddy and Kelly? I really don't understand the question. Have I read the book of Diddy? Oh, you're playing with me now. All right. That's what I pretty much got today. So we watch and we wait. Make sure you subscribe, because if stuff starts hitting the fan quickly, I do. Um, I do updates with live streams during the day and the night, and if you're interested in that, you should subscribe. And I'd appreciate it if you take 2 seconds and hit the thumbs up button. It helps me with YouTube, and I'd appreciate that. So please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, and joy, and healing. Pray for our finances, okay? Offering information's at the top of the chat, and it's in the description box. And thank you for those who send offerings in. It's very expensive living here, let me tell you. And pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I hope you got something out of this. I think we got a little bit more of a fine-tuning approach to Jeremiah 50 and 51. So I'm a little over 2 hours today. That's not so bad. Okay, guys. So I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.